Welcome to Season 2 of Let's Break Up, Toxic Workplace Stories. Join hosts Nicola and Gina as they tackle workplace toxicity head-on. Real-life stories, well-being, and standing against toxicity await you. Let's break up with toxic workplaces and create a revolution of positivity together.
As a disclaimer, Nicola and Gina's opinions are solely their own and don't represent professional advice. It's just their perspective, so form your own conclusions. Heads up, this podcast may contain adult content and explicit language. So let's dive in and break up with toxic workplaces.
Good morning, Bryan.
How you doing?
Good, thank you, and yourself?
Oh, I'm doing great. Good to connect with you guys. How are y'all? We got one New Zealander and one Floridan.
That is correct. That is
All right.
100% correct.
Right on. What time is it in New Zealand right now?
Ask crack o'clock.
Well, I appreciate you getting up early to make this happen.
5:27
Oh, shoot.
a.m.
All right. So where you are currently in Chile?
Nashville, Tennessee, as we speak.
Oh, what were all your Instagram posts about from?
Yeah, I was down in
Are
Chile.
you a recycler?
No. Actually, I got back to Tennessee about a week ago, and so it's nice to kind of be home and just relax. And before I get ready to go back out there again, I'm going to go to. I'm actually renewing my passport right now. It's going to take about 2 months, so I'm going to be in Tennessee for about 2 months, and then I might go to Spain.
Why does it take 2 months to renew your passport?
Because
Yeah,
the
it's
United
crazy.
States government is slow as hell.
Bryan, do you want to introduce yourself up to us just a wee bit? What's the haps over by you? Where are you from? Who are you calling us from today? What's your business? Tell us about you.
Yeah. So I'm out of Nashville, Tennessee. I am the CEO and co-founder of GreenPal, which is a mobile app that works like Uber, but for landscaping services. So if you live in the United States and you need to get a gardener, a landscaping service, you need your grass cut, rather than calling around on Craigslist or Facebook, you just download GreenPal, pop your address in, and somebody comes out and takes care of it for you.
It's pretty
So
cool.
I think when we first read about this, I think our commentary was like, is this how you would get like a John Deere like to the front of your house? You just like Uber a John Deere to the house.
But like somebody who's on the John Deere. It wouldn't just be like a John Deere like appearing on your like.
The main thing is you get somebody who knows how to operate the John Deere in your yard and makes the grass short for you, rather than having to mow it yourself or dialing for dollars and leaving voicemails, trying to hassle somebody to come take care of the chore. You just pop your address in GreenPal and somebody comes and does it for you.
What if it's a weirdo? Because America's filled with interesting people. What if like the guy on the John Deere is actually coming to like put me in a cellophane wrap and put me on the John Deere and then run me over in the John Deere? Like, how do we prevent that from
I guess
happening?
your question, Nicola, is are they vetted?
Yeah.
And I'm assuming
really,
yes.
How do you keep the interesting people out of the platform is part of our job. You want to know that you're getting a professional. You want to know that somebody who's been in the business, somebody that is going to do a good job for you. And that's part of our platform's job, is to make sure that good vendors, good lawn care professionals get promoted, and the bad ones, the interesting ones, get demoted and expelled from the platform. So you get to sidestep that as a homeowner, rather than having to go through that. You know, if you do it the old way, you kind of have to go through that through trial and error, hiring a couple bad providers, and then you finally get the guy that you want or gal that you want. And then they mow for 2 or 3 times and then they disappear. And then you're left with the process all over again. Our platform's job is to make all that go away, make that easy.
Okay.
So how successful is your platform/app?
Yeah, it still feels like day one, but it's a 10-year overnight success. My co-founders and I have been at this thing for a little over a decade, grown the business from zero in revenue. We ended our first year with, I think, around $2,000 in revenue. And now we're doing over $30 million a year in revenue through the platform.
Are you looking for a wife?
I'm married to the business. I'm married to GreenPal.
I get that.
And I am faithful.
I get that.
Okay, hold on. That's a toxic issue all in itself there, Bryan. I think we need to maybe unpack that a little bit more as to how you prioritize your self-care.
Tough. It's tough. When, I've done this twice now. My first business was a traditional landscaping business, and that I grew to over 100 people and sold it. And then the second business, I've grown it to around 40 people. And so both businesses, growing them from scratch, getting them going, growing and scaling them, it was basically like the GDP of myself. It was everything I had, both times. And looking back, 22 years doing this, personal relationships, it did come at the cost and the expense of personal relationships, whether it be friends, even family, girlfriend, wife. So I think, if you're going to be married doing this kind of thing, your spouse or your girlfriend's got to be bought in with you. They got to be on the bus with you, because it's really, really, really challenging to try to get a business going from scratch when you've got a partner who's not on board with you. In fact, it's probably gonna come at a price, and that's what I've experienced. And a lot of people don't want to talk about that candidly, but that's the way I experienced it. Getting two businesses going from scratch, that it came at the expense of personal relationships.
I think that's kind of something that kind of stuck out to us when we saw your pitch to join the podcast, is that you were pretty candid, because we kind of got hooked in with your story about the t-shirt guy.
Yeah, the
Bless
t-shirt
that
guy.
poor child's heart. And we had some commentary about that. So if anyone's watching the YouTube video today, Gina has some amazing set changes here.
Yes, I have a few planned.
And just for those that can't see the shirt because they're listening, what does the shirt say there?
It says, "Stop having sex with broke men."
It's a good tip.
It is a good tip.
That's what
It's a
she
hot
said.
take. I am no longer doing that, so I guess my shirt worked. Anyway, so tell us why I have crazy shirts on today.
Well, we were talking about toxic workplaces and how toxicity kind of grows and manifests itself in the workplace. And I've dealt with that several times, building two companies, and one thing I have found is, as the founder, as the chief, as the CEO, as the manager, whatever hat you want to wear, you get exactly the culture you deserve. You get exactly the level of toxicity you deserve, because it really reflects you. It reflects you as the founder. It reflects you as the CEO, as the president. And I've had to reconcile that several times. There's been times where I've driven to the office, and I'm sure every founder, every entrepreneur can relate to this, driving to the office, and you're just thinking to yourself, God, how can I get through another day with this group of bastards? How can I get through another day with all of these assholes?
What have I done in my life where I'm surrounded by assholes?
Right,
is
exactly.
This karma? Is it karma? What is it?
And you have to go through a self-reflection period and realize that you built this. This is a reflection of you. This is your creation. This conversations I've had with myself, and that you realize that the toxicity in the workplace, the culture, whatever you want to call it, sucks because you've let it get there. And so, it's like death by 1,000 cuts. And as the founder, it's your job to protect, preserve, and to create the level of the culture you want in your business, and the level of toxicity that you're willing to tolerate. And I've dealt with hundreds of examples of playing whack-a-mole and trying to protect culture in my business. One of which is attire, is dress code, is what people wear around the office. And there's been several examples of that, but one that comes to mind, I was walking into the office one day, and this is when the company had grown to over 20 people, one of our engineers was wearing I looked over, and he was, had his headphones on, he was working, and I looked over and he had a Gatorade shirt on. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. He's got a Gatorade shirt on. And I was wondering why is he wearing a Gatorade shirt? But it didn't say, but I looked at it a second time, and it didn't say Gatorade. It said get laid across the front of his shirt. Get laid. And I kind of laughed.
I like it. I honestly, like, if the design, like, I like the play on words. I'm picturing the Gatorade logo and colors and font, but like saying get laid. I'm not mad at the shirt, but should it be worn in the office? Questionable.
Depends. It depends. So I've been down this road before. Doesn't offend me personally. I think it's kind of funny. But I've been down this, having been down this road before of, in my landscaping company, we had a problem with a guy wearing a shirt with a Confederate flag across the back.
Ooh.
And,
Okay, yikes.
right. And so,
I'm not even from your country, and I'm like, oh, that's problematic.
I feel like most politics should stay out of like lawn care or most businesses.
Right.
Like, we don't need to bring politics into this, people.
Right.
But yes, so
exactly.
having had those experiences, what happened?
Or I've had this happen where, a lady came, this is my last company. We had 150 people there. She came in and she was wearing a shirt that said Jesus saves across the back.
Yeah, but then how far, I'm curious to know, how far do you go with censorship?
Right.
I hate everyone.
Had this happen,
But as like
I don't have a problem with it, but
others might.
BLM shirt.
Yeah,
where do you draw the line, and how do you deal with it as the chief, and how do you protect the culture? So seeing the get laid shirt didn't bother me personally, but I've been down this road before where these things can manifest themselves into toxicity, and then now this person's offended, and then you got to deal with that, and it's like toxicity in your workplace will happen. Plan on it.
Mm-hmm.
It's your job as the leader to get out in front of it, to deal with it the moment you see it, and to not have hope as a strategy to say, oh, I hope it goes away so I don't have to deal with it. Because that's how you get to a point where you're driving to the office and you're thinking, oh my God, if I can just get through one more day with all of these jerks. That's where you end up. If you don't deal with these things the moment you see them, and address them the moment you see them, and even better, lay out expectations and manage expectations beforehand. So in this example, this is just one of dozens I've had to deal with over the years. But in this example, I was able to pull him aside and say, hey, listen, I think this shirt is hilarious. In fact, where did you get it? I'd like to have one. I think it's funny. And so, but just so you know, like, this is my fault. I didn't tell you the workplace policy we have around dress code, and I didn't set that up front. And this is, you haven't done anything wrong, but this is something that it'd be a favor to me if you can take that shirt off and put on a different shirt. I've got a company shirt that I'll give you with the logo of the company, and it would be a favor to me because this is my fault. I didn't manage.
Did you genuinely believe it was your fault though? Because
I did,
people
because
say that shit just to kind of like gloss over a situation.
You have to really you got to really believe that shit because people can smell bullshit a mile away.
Yeah,
and it was my fault because I didn't lay out the groundwork ahead of time and say, listen, we're more like we're less like a family and more like a pro team here, and we have this goal, this mission, this is all we care about, and we don't bring all this other stuff to the workplace, and we have a level of decorum and a level of professionalism here, that a quality standard that we all hold ourselves by, and I'm setting that standard. I didn't do any of that. This was very much when I was building the company, shooting from the hip, trying to get my first 5, 10, 20 people together working on the mission.
Yeah.
And so I didn't have those policies in place. So was my fault, was my shortcoming. And he actually was cool about it, was totally cool about it. Other times I've had to deal with this, people weren't very receptive
What was
about
a
it.
time when someone wasn't receptive to this?
In my previous company, we had a board meeting one day. Investors were coming in, and we had important people coming through the office, and this guy was wearing a shirt that looked like you might have gotten it out of the garbage can. I mean, it was dirty. It had holes in it. I mean, it looked like
was it
something.
one of those like designer shirts
Like
that are
deconstructed
distressed?
designer
Like-
vibe?
I personally don't have the fashion acumen to know the difference, but it
Okay.
looked like something that like a backyard mechanic might wear. And not that there's anything wrong with that, but on this particular day, and you know, it just didn't look good. And I approached him and said, hey, listen, you know, I let everybody know that we've got important people coming to the office today, and you know, I would appreciate if you could change shirts, because this your shirt you're wearing is not up to the quality standard that we have. And he said, what did he said? Well, I got this at Goodwill. You don't like it? And I said, well, you know, it's all right. It's a nice shirt, but it looks like the guy that had it before you also liked it for a long time, and he was offended by that. So that was an example where I didn't handle it very well, and screwed it up. And so so you gotta be really careful about these things. You gotta think through what you're going to say. But even better, you need to plan on these things happening, and you need to put in place, I hate to say it, but policies and expectations around what's acceptable and what's not. And you have to set the quality standard for the team, because if you don't, they will. And once they do, then you have to deal with these things. So it is plan on it, and lay out ways that you're going to deal with these things. And then the moment you see it, and I'm not just talking about dress code, I'm talking about anything. The moment you see it as the leader, as the manager, you have to address it and nip it in the butt. If you don't, then you wake up one day and you hate driving to the office. I promise you that will happen.
So I think, when we were on our like vetting call, you know, I mentioned that I think it is very rare to find someone in a leadership position, like yourself, who actually can have the emotional maturity to say, like, to notice it and then be like, okay, this is partially, because it's like you became like responsible for 100% responsible for your 50%, which most people don't want to deal with that for whatever reasons. Like, that's a whole different podcast that we would need therapists on here for. So like, why do you think, have you always been self-reflective? Like, both myself and Nicola we're very, like, I'll call myself out if I'm like, oh, that was really fucked up that I did that, or like, I can't believe I said that to a client, like they're for sure never gonna work with us again, or whatever, you know, like we're very open to calling ourselves out on our bullshit. So have you always been like that, or was that something that you had to learn how to do, being, you know, an entrepreneur?
Yeah, for me, nobody teaches us this
Right.
stuff. You know, we're not taught this stuff in school. We're not taught this stuff in business school. You know, maybe if you go to some leadership workshops or leadership training, you know, you might be
Sure.
exposed to these types of ideas. But for me, it was very much trial and error in the marketplace of trying to build a business and failing, that I come to the epiphany that it was me. And that's one of the best, you know, one of the best things you can do with your life is to try to start a business, or even if you're not an entrepreneur, you know, managing a team in a business is one of the most rewarding things you can do with your life, because the marketplace is a relentless purveyor of feedback. So the marketplace is going to tell you everywhere you suck all the time. So it's like, okay, our customers are pissed off. Well, why are our customers pissed off? Well, because they're not getting the level of service we promised them. Well, why not? Well, because our employees are pissed off. Well, why are our employees pissed off? Well, because of X, Y, and Z, and you know, the culture in the business sucks and they hate working here. Well, why do they hate working here? Well, because you, founder, have created this environment that's not fun to work at. And
how did you create that? So you keep saying it was like you didn't want to be there. You're like, if I could just get through this day, like how did it manifest itself to the point where you're like, if I could just get through one more day, maybe things will be okay? Like how did it get to that point? And what were the specific things that you were dreading when you were driving into the office?
Yeah, it gets there by 1,000 bad decisions. And you kind of work your way out of it by doing 1,000 things, 10,000 things correctly. So you have to fix it almost like pruning a rose bush, to use landscaping as an analogy. You have to prune out the bad parts of the plant, and by that I mean it might be bad processes, bad systems, bad ways of doing business, bad people that you hired. So that's one piece of it. But also on the other side of the spectrum, there's a quote that I like: if you're going to eat shit, don't nibble. And so a lot of times, you know,
wait, what?
Just get it straight down to get it over with.
Yeah, you really
just go in and fuck it up and be done with it. Yeah, I get that.
Take it down to the studs and rebuild it the way it should be. But I mean, how do you even know? It's hard to know that, and hard to know how to do it the right way. And so a lot of times,
especially as an entrepreneur, because I was just talking to my mother about this, and I was like, sometimes I'm the problem. Like there were things that were outside of my control with what I'm going through right now with my business, but then that's like 50%. And then the other 50%, I feel like were directly related to me not handling a situation properly, not pausing and just telling people what I really think of them, which is never good. But I am sometimes, like, when a client shits on me so much, it's like you can only take so much. So I'm kind of in that same boat where it's like I did make some decisions that are costing us dearly right now, but then there's like 50% of the things that are outside of our control, right? That like COVID or banking mess ups, or I don't know, whatever, clients not paying on time, just a few things that come to my mind. So it's like, what happens when you realize like that your decisions like are single-handedly like fucking up your company that you started? Like, you know what I mean?
That's part of, for me, that was part of the growing process, realize and not making those mistakes over again and growing from them. Success is a lousy teacher. The only way we learn how to do these things the right way is by fucking them up first, but then not fucking them up over and over and over again. I mean, that's step one. And for me, one thing that I've had to learn the hard way, there's been times in business where I hated our customers, I hated our vendors, I hated most of the people that worked for us. And I realized that, the level of enthusiasm that I'm bringing to the business, my people are going to reflect that same level of enthusiasm. And so I have to genuinely be enthusiastic about what we're trying to do, what the mission is, what the goals are, and what we're doing every day. I mean, I really got to be enthusiastic about that, because if I'm not, then my people certainly aren't. Why would they be any more enthusiastic about the mission than me, the founder? And the other thing too is, as the founder, as a leader, it's your job to almost like ingest a lot of the negative stuff and almost in a way bear that burden for the rest of your people and not reflect that back to them. Sure, a customer screwing you over, how did that happen? What processes did you have in place that is preventing that customer from paying you? Is it a payment process? Is it something that you laid the groundwork on that's not working? That's not your people's fault, but it's got you pissed off because you're getting screwed over. And so now you're pissed off. And so you show up to the office, you're pissed off, and now everybody else is pissed off. And so it's like, part of the art is ingesting that, and almost, I hate to say, putting on like a happy face for everybody else.
Mhm.
That's what the founder needs to be able to do. That's what the leader needs to be able to do, and not wear all of these challenges on their sleeve, because that's going to permeate into the rest of the culture. And that's really, really, really hard to do.
It
And that's
is.
might be one reason why this game, being an entrepreneur is not for everybody, because not everybody wants to do that. I certainly don't. But it's one of the things that I've learned how to do over 22 years of running businesses, is like, you have to be able to ingest that stuff and show to your team that everything is okay, and that you're enthusiastic about the mission, and they should be too.
Mhm. Yeah,
If-
I mean,
Before you became a business owner and someone that took responsibility for their kind of shit eating, were you ever an employee of somewhere?
It's rare. It's weird. I've never had a job. I actually started mowing yards in high school as a way to make extra cash, and I thought, man, this is cool. I'm making more money than my friends are, making more money than I could if I did get a job, and I just stuck with that. And then I went to college, and when I graduated college from business school, I made a little business plan, had a chip on my shoulder, and thought, I'm going to build a big company in this industry. And I ended up building like one of the largest landscaping businesses in the Southeast United States, and then sold it. And then after that, I still had the chip on my shoulder. I thought, well, I see all these successful tech companies now. I want to try that. And I just wanted to prove to myself that I could do it. So I never had a job working for anybody else. And maybe that was good in some ways and bad in others. It would have been nice to have worked for a big company and see their systems and processes and take the good things and fix the bad things. So maybe that held me back, but I guess I'm lucky in that. And I'm also lucky that I never did have a job and always worked for myself.
Because I was curious, that was going to be my next question, is I would be curious to know how that has impacted the way that you kind of define or develop that culture, if you haven't experienced a culture outside of what you've created.
Yeah, I've just experienced my bad cultures. And I think a lot of times as running a business, it's your life. You are your business. Your business is you. And as a small business owner, that's really kind of the reality. Like a restaurant owner, is when he or she wakes up in the shower, they're thinking about their restaurant. They're thinking about the chef just resigned and they need to hire a new chef. They're thinking about new recipes, like 7 days a week. And I think any small business owner, any good one, is all in. And so I think a lot of your personal like your personal well-being and your personal health is tied to how your business is doing. At least it has been for me.
it absolutely,
100%.
I would agree with that 100%. Like, so I have a business partner who we started the business when we were dating each other like 12 years ago. And within the first 3 months of the business starting, I realized there's no way I could be both a business partner and a girlfriend to this human being.
Yeah.
So we chose the business and we grew the business, to a point where we were doing really, really well. And then COVID hit. And my business partner basically just like checked out and he left me with the mess. And he's still around, but he really doesn't do anything. He just kind of, he got married. He's, whatever he's doing, I don't know. And I'm just like left with this mess. And I have to like constantly think on my feet, make 100 million decisions, from the time my eyes pop open to the time I drug myself to go to sleep, so that, because like my mind will just keep going. And like even this morning I was working out with my husband and I was like thinking about something and I was like, I think we should sell your other house. And he's like, why? I'm like, oh, we just got to generate more income. Like, I'm always thinking of a way to make extra money, thinking about emails I sent. Like you're exactly right. Like you just like get into that groove of like being resourceful, finding solutions, making decisions, you know, all the time. And it is
Do you
not for
find
everyone.
as well, because this is something that I really struggle with as well. On top of that, someone comes to you and they're like, hey, so I've got this idea. And it's like, oh my God, let's red string it. Let's go. We can totally come up with all the plans. Does anyone else do that as well?
Yes, hello. That's how this podcast started, you Muppet.
Touche.
What the hell?
No, but I mean for like other people, for like people that are potentially maybe not in the same mind frame, and then they're like, I can't do all of that. It's like, why not?
That could be what separates people who are not entrepreneurs. People who are people who are willing to go all in and make it part of their soul, the business that they're working on, and be one of the distinctions, you know. And you know, there's people that work for big companies who are entrepreneurial in nature, who are like that, who think only about their role in their big company and their team 7 days a week, and maybe they have that entrepreneurial DNA. You know, that I think it's part of the journey, that if you're willing to be an entrepreneur, you got to be willing to think about it when you're in the shower. And you know, you talked about, Gina, you talked about all the challenges you're going through right now, you know, with cleaning up the mess from the fallout from the partnership or whatever. You know, I'm willing to bet that in 5 years you'll be glad you went through this, because every challenging part of growing a couple of businesses myself, like all of the hard parts, and man, I've been on the ropes a few times. I was glad they happened in a weird way, because that enabled these other 3 things that were really good to happen. You know, it caused me
And
to
I'm a
rework
firm
something.
believer that things mainly do happen for a reason. Like one thing will lead to the next thing, will lead to the next thing. But you know, when my business partner is still my business partner, he just has absolutely zero willingness to help or be a part of the business. He just wants the profit. So joke's on him, because there's no profit sharing at the moment. So
there's a weird thing that I read the other day. So you got 2 people. One is at like a comfortable state in their business or in their relationship life or whatever. And then the other person is in extreme pain in their relationship or in their business. And who is in the better position? The person that's at a comfortable kind of mediocre level?
No, it's the person who's uncomfortable, because they're the ones who are going to change to get
They're
out
the
of the
ones
pain.
to get in a better position.
Yeah. So, and that
that's
is me. And, you know, I came back to like things with a completely different mindset. And, you know, it's still, for me, it's still 50-50. 50% of it is outside of my control, and 50% of it is me.
Yeah.
It's me. Hi,
It's
I'm the
you.
problem.
Hi, you're the problem. It's you.
But that's one of the best things about running your own thing is that personal growth. Most people don't get to go through that because they're not exposed to it. You know, they work a job and everybody, you know, at their job kind of just tells them what they want to hear just to get the output they need out of them. The marketplace doesn't do that. Marketplace is
no.
relentless.
I was told yesterday by a client that they don't trust me anymore. And I'm like, oh, okay. I'm sorry. We're making you headbands. How do you not trust? Look at the fucking headband. We're not curing cancer. God damn it. But okay, cool. And like, even though they had a part to play in the non-trusting scenario, they will never admit it. So I have to, like you said, I have to eat that and be like, you're absolutely right. Like, I fucked up, blah, blah, blah. Even though I'm like, you know, the spiteful Italian in me is like, I'm going to find out where this bitch lives and I'm going to do donuts in her front lawn. Like, I will literally, like, you know. So
I have felt that way. Yeah.
Like,
yeah. And,
yeah.
And as a business owner, everything is your fault all the time.
But then it makes us wonder though, right? Then we reflect on the workplace that you and I came from, Gina.
Yes.
And the owner in that instance was very involved in the organization, but had created a toxic environment that there was very little adaptability to kind of have a look inside and go, okay, maybe I need to adapt and grow. And they had a great idea that they kind of monetized, and that led to this business. But the maturity there to think through what impact that they were having on the organization is so non-existent. And then listening to the negative feedback coming out of the customers that are using the products, and changing essentially entire marketing plans because of one person's negative comment. And then thanks to this podcast, also personally reached out to a total stranger on Facebook who shared our podcast and told them that they were going to be blacklisted as customers.
Wow.
How do you feel? I'm curious, let's unpack that for a second. What are your thoughts here?
So, I mean, I think it's exactly what Bryan first said, like, Bryan and I were talking about, like, not everyone has the ability to self-reflect and like eat the negative shit about them and be like, yeah, I can be a dick. Like, I have to work hard, me, myself, Gina, to not be a dick to everyone that I meet. Like, that is my personal plight, right? Because like, that's how I'm built. Like, I don't know why. So she, in this particular situation, there was no self-reflection, and she surrounded herself, and I think this is to Bryan's point, with people who would co-sign her bullshit.
Yeah.
Like the team she created for herself had very little experience and thought everything she did and said was just like the best thing since sliced bread, like golden nuggets just raining down out of her mouth and her ass at all times. Yeah.
Well, the thing is, it's when it comes to feedback from customers, from people, from teammates, from people you hired, from family members, you can't just take it all in and change for everything. You have to take it, ingest it, internalize it, see the commonalities, be honest with yourself about opportunities for improvement that you have, and then act on those. You can't just be willing to, because I mean, not everybody's going to give you good feedback. Some of it is going to be self-serving, and some of it may not be true. So it's your job to be able to take it all in and then really look for the commonalities. Like, you know what, everybody's kind of telling me I'm difficult to deal with. I don't think so. I think I'm pretty straight up, but I don't know. I've heard it 10 times this year that I'm a little gruff, and maybe I need to work on that.
That's my biggest complaint, is that I'm too like
condescending.
Oh yes, that I have a condescending tone to my emails. I did not realize an informational email could be condescending.
And
anyway.
I mean, so you could do a couple things. I kind of skew towards that type of character myself, and so I mean, me personally, I mean, I try to take myself out of a lot of the personal people types of selling arrangements. I know I'm not good at that. But you say you're in the people business. You have to personally sell, so you have to make a decision. Are you going to cultivate that part of your personality, or rebuild your business to where it's completely self-serve and they interact with a screen and they pick out the headband they want, they upload their logo and they put it on there, and they don't have to talk to a salesperson. You have to make that decision. If you're going to be in the personal sales business,
I think there's a third option: to hire people who are better at it and more experienced at it than you, and let them do it.
I mean, I don't want to run away from self-improvement, but also there is something to be said for realizing what you're good at and doubling down on that.
Yeah.
And not trying to be something you're not. So, ultimately that's all of our decision is I think in the early days of getting a business going from scratch, you have no customers. You have no employees.
You're
You have
everything.
nothing.
Your operations,
You got to be
your
everything to all
logistics, you're
people.
everything. Yes. And honestly, I've been cultivating the majority of the accounts that do place contract orders with us. And after 12 years, like, I've eaten a lot of shit. I think I'm like kind of, just, I'm like, I'll stick with my normal accounts, but like, I can't keep doing, like, trying to generate more business. It's just not where I want to be right now. I'm 43, I have a 3-year-old, and I just like, but it's hard. It's also really hard to find fucking good employees. Like,
Really hard.
it's really hard. So, Nicola, that doesn't include you. Because she does marketing for my company, but it does not include you. But no, it's very difficult. Like, tell us some employee horror stories.
Yeah,
I
I'm
think
very
there's some
curious to know
juice.
some of these horror stories too.
Besides the Get Laid t-shirt.
Well, around what you're talking about, okay, I suck at this, so I want to put somebody else in this role to do it better than me. What I have found is that it's really hard to delegate something that you aren't good at yourself. And every time I've tried to do that, whether it be engineering for my company GreenPal, or sales, or content writing, or SEO, or for Facebook marketing, if I haven't done it and I haven't figured out what like the 80-20 is and the right way to do it to where I can lay it out into a process and then delegate that to somebody to do it better than me, then usually it blows up in my face and I don't get the result I want. And I just keep repeating the same mistakes over and over again. It's like, I'm not good at this. Here, you handle it. Almost never works out. It's like, okay, here's how we do this. Here's why we do it this way. Here's the process. Here's the routine. Here's what we expect. And you work this process from soup to nuts. Then I can put it in somebody's hands and they can do it better than me. That's how I have found like hiring people to do things works. But I understand what you're saying. It's like, it's hard to find good people, and it is, but I think a lot of times it's hard for people to even do good work for us because we haven't codified it down to what we think they should be doing, And
also, like, for me, it's like there's multiple ways to get a task done, right? But I know so intimately every aspect of this company because I built it like single-handedly, that if it's not done as quickly as I could do it, or within like in the way that I would have handled it, it's like an uncomfortable position for me. Like, I feel like, ooh, I don't like the way that was done. But then again, it's like, who am I to say? Like, that worked for me, but it might not work for so-and-so. So there's so much to consider. And it's like, even if you do like write down the steps, it's like, there's always going to be, the outlier that skirts the code or the steps that we've codified.
Right.
And it's just like to find someone who's willing to do the work and to do it consistently, knowing that, like, especially sales, that return on investment will take a long time. Like, yeah, you're getting paid a shitty base salary, but you're going to get all your money from commissions. So like, that's something that I'm struggling with. And I don't know why we went down that path. We were talking about, giving it to someone to make better, but yeah, so that's where I'm at with that whole thing. Like, I'm always split between being like, God, I wish I could just clone myself. And then, then like also being like, okay, I don't know everything. Let this person do, what they do and see what happens. Maybe I can learn from them. So like, it's hard to reconcile, I think, sometimes. Because like, also, to be an entrepreneur, you have to be a little crazy. Like, you have to be like, I'm gonna live off of like $300 a month in the beginning and like just figure it out as I go. and work alone in like a shitty apartment, whatever. Like that was how we started this business, so
Yeah.
it's like you have to make the decision, like you're not going to live in the fear of, am I going to be able to pay my rent this month or whatever the case may be. So it's like nobody's going to care as much as you care at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's everything you're talking about is probably the hardest thing about business ownership.
Mhm.
And it's like you have to get people to do what you want them to do because they want to do it.
Mhm.
And that's is easier said than done. And creating those incentives and creating those processes is what separates being self-employed from having an actual business.
Right.
And most people conflate those two, and there's a big gap between the two. Let's say you've got 5 employees and you have to come in and wrangle it every day, and if you left for a week, you'd come back and there would be a crater and smoke coming out of it. Like I've ran businesses like that for many, many, many years. And the thing I had to realize, like, I'm not actually a business owner. I'm just self-employed with a few helpers.
Right.
And crossing that chasm between being self-employed, where it's you and like hand-to-hand combat, wrangling some people to get some stuff done every day, is not actually owning a business. It's just being self-employed on steroids.
Mhm.
And that's okay. It's okay to be self-employed and to make a good profit, and then take that profit and reinvest it in some other more durable sources of income like real estate or something like that. That's okay. You don't have to build a big, huge business, because it's really, really, really hard. But this is something that every small business owner goes through. And one of my favorite books about it is the E-Myth, which is a simple, simple, simple book about a lady who would make pies with her grandmother. And she loved the smell of pies, and she remembered making pies with her grandmother when she was a kid. So she wanted to open a bakery. It was her lifelong dream to open a bakery. And she opened the bakery, and within like a month, she hated the smell of freshly baked pies. And it's her story about going through the idea of like having a business idea in your head and actually executing and building a business, and what goes into that, and what the difference between being self-employed and having a business is. And it's a really good, simple book about that. And I read it probably once every couple of years. Even at the stage I'm at, I still get lessons from that little simple book about what it means to run a business and build a business.
Mhm.
And it's something that all of us as founders go through. So don't feel like you're alone in this. Like we are all struggling with that same thing you laid out. And how do you get people to care about the mission? How do you get them to do it? Like, I wish I could clone myself. I can't tell you how many times I've said that.
Even my business partner is like, why can't we just clone you? You're so good at what you do. I'm like, I am for the most part, but yeah. And but also I'm not, so I'm more of a realistic, I have more of a realistic view, I think, of myself. Like, I suck at sales, but I'm good at all of the other stuff. So it's always such a weird position to be in. And I like that you said that there's a difference between being self-employed and actually running a business. And I think for a while I was just self-employed on steroids, and then I started getting smarter about it. And I was like, I don't have to do everything. I can let go of the reins. Like, I'm not great. Like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing with marketing. I don't know I can't make these beautiful renderings that our art department now handles fully. Like, I can't do that. And I just was like, this is what we need to do to move forward, and we're there. And it's just, don't you feel like it's always just a lot of work? It's a lot of work, like, all the time.
It's never ending, and it really is. It's kind of like a video game.
Mhm.
And 10 levels of Super Mario Brothers, and at the end of every level is a new boss and a new dragon that you have to slay, and it gets
Right.
harder every level, and like the skills that got you through 3 won't get you through 4, and so on.
Right.
And most people get stuck on level 5. Or what's even worse, they're worried about Bowser, but they're really just on level 2. And it's like, don't worry about Bowser related problems when you're in Water World or or you're on level
How do you
5.
know so much about Super Mario Brothers?
I feel like I know equally as much about Super Mario
agree.
Brothers because
I
my
I
agree.
don't
child
know
plays
this
that.
much at all about Super
Uh,
Mario Brothers. I've
I
heard
grew
the
up-
name
I grew
Bowser.
up playing
I'd
Nintendo.
like to see you incorporate Princess Peach into this. Where does Princess Peach come in? Bryan?
Well, I grew up where Nintendo was on channel 3. And so if you know what that means, you're
I
authority.
do know what that means, but I never had a Nintendo. My parents
There's
were like,
people listening to this that will not understand that Nintendo was on channel 3.
yeah, that was the channel you had to turn it to. Like, that's like essentially like the USB back
That's
in the
right.
day.
That's
That
right.
was what it was. Channel 3 was like the old school USB. My parents were very weird about screen time with
Yeah,
me,
they were
and like,
smart. They were smart because
and
now here I am. I'm 43 years old, and I see the world through the lens of Super Mario Kart and Super Mario Brothers and a couple other video games.
but also
talk
it was
about
girls. We're not going to be playing like video games too much, you know? It was like me and
Excuse
my
us?
sister. I mean, I don't know.
Excuse me?
Back in the 80s, that wasn't our like jam. We weren't
Are
like,
you
ooh,
kidding? Are you want to back that truck up, sister? Let's not be making assumptions here. I had a Sega, and I can remember with like intensity how you would be like
of course.
in the
We did
cartridge,
everything from tapes to
jam
whatever.
the cartridge in, and then I could probably do this whole thing in like Sonic.
Okay, well, I just think it came down to the fact that my parents were religious fanatics and didn't allow screen time. I don't know if that's connected. I feel like it is anyway. Yes.
Well,
So
I don't know that it was a bad thing because I was raised on television and now I see business through the lens of a video game. You asked about Princess Peach. I've got
that's the ex-girlfriend and ex-wife and all the exes.
no. There's another corollary that Super Mario Kart. I don't know if you ever played that game, but you had like 5 or 6 different drivers, and Princess Peach was one of them. And every driver was really good at one thing, and Princess Peach was really good at accelerating off the line. She was really fast, but she didn't have a real high top end. And a lot of other drivers, like Toad, was really good handling around the curves, and Bowser was the fastest, but he was slow accelerating. And then you had Mario, who was kind of half-assed at everything. He wasn't the fastest. He wasn't the most
Jack
the best
of all
accelerator.
trades.
Yeah. He was half-assed at everything. And what I've learned that in business, probably up till about 50 or even 100 people, you should be Mario in the game of business. You really don't want to be just good at one thing. You really kind of want to be a generalist. You need to be pretty half-assed good at leadership, at marketing, at operations, at customer service, at R&D, at engineering. You need to be half-assed good at all of these things in order to get to 100 people, because you're going to be doing a lot of it yourself and laying out the processes and then putting people in roles where they can do it. So like you can be princess and be good at one thing and then get people to kind of shore that up. But I think it's a lot harder. I think it's better to be Mario and to be half-assed at good at like a dozen different
Which
things.
I think as an entrepreneur, you have to be by nature when you're building your business. Like I figured out how to do things. Did I do them great? Probably not. My area
Good
of
enough,
expertise is, production, all that kind of stuff, like CPG production, knowing how to run a smooth production run, logistics, all of that. But I'm not a marketing person. I did the best that I could in the beginning, but now we have, bigger and better in place. So it's like, I think you do kind of end up you wear all the hats at first. So
you have to, and you got to be willing to. And the good news is these days you can learn the 80-20 of marketing, copywriting, product design, branding, whatever it is. You can learn these skills for free in YouTube University or podcasts like this one or online courses or whatever. You can learn this stuff. Back in the 90s when I was starting my first business, I mean, you had the library. I mean, you could buy some tapes, maybe a Tony Robbins tape or something, but there was no way to learn this stuff. And it was very much a
side
black
note,
box.
do we think Tony Robbins is part of a cult? I think he's the charismatic cult leader.
Oh my God, I think he's the charismatic cult leader.
Cause so Joe's my partner. He does SWAT here in West Palm Beach, and Tony Robbins comes down here and he has like big conferences, and they always request him because he's like a sergeant and he's like got a whole SWAT team under him, whatever. I don't really understand what he does because half the time he's like, I'm sitting in my office watching a movie. But anyway, on the days that Tony Robbins there, he's like, it's fucking crazy. You go to the convention center, there's thousands of people. It's like 60 degrees and like people are like dancing in this, like the aisles, like just, it's like, and he sent me videos and people are doing like ridiculous things that I would never be caught dead doing at Tony Robbins like conferences.
Is
So
he
do we
the
think
charismatic cult leader?
he is the charismatic cult leader?
I thought Tony Robbins was bullshit for pretty much all of my life.
What changed?
Until about 4 years ago.
Oh, oh my God, Brian's joined the cult.
No, I didn't get hooked up on the Kool-Aid, but I did go on a. I went on a.
You went on a date with?
Tony Robbins. I went on a Tinder date with a girl who.
I'm so subscribed right now. I'm so ready for the story.
Yeah. Ooh, let's talk about Tinder. Okay. Well, I'm
so here.
I went on a Tinder date with a girl, and the date went okay, but it was something I took away from the date. She was telling me about guys she had dated before, and they were all very wealthy. So I was able to kind of pattern match that this girl was into wealthy, successful men.
But did she have a shirt that said this?
Tits McGee's Irish Pub.
Mm-hmm.
That would not be allowed at my company.
So you went on your Tinder date, and then what happened?
Yes, and this girl's telling me about the previous guy she dated, and she was
Tony Robbins.
She was telling me that this guy spent $2 million a year chasing Tony Robbins around.
What?
Yeah, and she was telling me this in a kind of a, lamenting the fact that he was stupid enough to do this, and that he was dumb enough to spend $2 million a year chasing Tony Robbins around. And I thought, I heard it very differently. I heard it, okay, first off, here's a guy who can piss away $2 million a year. So I'm interested.
Wait, can you get me a date with him?
Yeah.
If I okay it?
Clearly he's on Tinder. He's on Tinder.
I'm trying to marry Bryan and date this other guy. Just, meanwhile, Joe here is over here in the background. But it's okay. I'll figure that out. Can you get me a date with him?
You can't wear the "Don't Date Broke Guy" shirt. But he so I'm interested in the story. He's got $2 million a year to burn on self-improvement just on Tony. And I thought, well, this guy might be on to something because he's gotten himself to a level of success where he can spend $2 million a year in personal development. I mean, that would be kind of cool if I could do that. It may not be on Tony, but it might be on something else. So I got on eBay. I bought Tony Robbins' first book, Awaken the Giant Within, for about $1.50. And book arrives and I read it. I'm like, damn, it's a pretty good book. I don't know that it's going to get me to the level where I can spend $2 million with Tony, but pretty good book. Then I started listening to some stuff on YouTube. Then I read his second book and I started listening to some more stuff. And the next thing I know, I'm listening to podcasts. And then I went to an event that was for free.
Were you dancing?
Yeah,
were you dancing in the streets?
Yeah, his thing is connecting physical movement with your state and connecting your state to your overall mood, and like we talked about earlier, enthusiasm and like shaking that up. I mean, we're only here on this planet for 40 good years, but we're young and then we're old.
Speak
So
for yourself. I don't look 43, and my body's currently
Okay,
banging, and I have big boobs now that I didn't
let's
want.
fair enough.
I saw
but
your
let's just
body
say-
in
let's just
Instagram.
say our
You are
time is
banging right
limited.
now.
Our time is limited, and I mean, you might as well spend it enthusiastically. And so a lot of these lessons really to hit home. Am I the kind of guy that's going to go follow him around or pay for a private coaching or whatever? No, but I was exposed to a lot of really good ideas and a lot of really good ways of thinking and changing your perspective and the frame in which you look at things and deal with problems. Because really it's all just our thoughts. It's really our decision to choose how we respond to these challenges. And it helped me see things differently. And that was at like
Did you
38.
spend $2 million on?
No. And in fact, I've probably spent less than $2,000 on Tony Robbins stuff, but I've gotten way more than I have invested from the way he looks at things. So I am from the camp that total bullshit cult to pretty good, not bad. My only thing is a little too broad. It's a little too broad. I think
Gotta cast a wide net.
Yeah,
to
you
bring
do.
in that money.
If you're gonna, I think Tony Robbins is a billionaire now, and I mean,
he definitely is. Yeah,
you're gonna be a billionaire in self-help. You gotta appeal to a wide audience. But I think it's good to expose yourself to that kind of stuff, and then drill down and get the same level of Tony Robbins style guidance at the exact thing you need. So you mentioned you were really good at CPG. Whoever the Tony Robbins is of CPG, you should probably be spending time and money with to get really good at that. Whoever the person is that built Dollar Shave Club or the purple mattress or whatever all that shit is, like whoever's really good at that stuff, the Tony Robbins of CPG, you should probably spend all your time with. And so that's how I look at personal development and self-help. So I don't think it's a bullshit cult. I think it's worth looking at.
Okay. Well.
Okay.
Apparently Tony Robbins is very nice in person. Okay, so Bryan, do you have any last thoughts besides telling us maybe Tony Robbins isn't a cult?
Yeah, Tony Robbins is not a cult. My last parting thought along the lines of Tony Robbins, if you're founding and running a business, you're doing three things at once at all times. And so you're working in the business, you're making sure it runs, you're taking orders, you're making sure employees are showing up, you're making sure customers are getting taken care of, you're just making sure the damn thing runs. The second thing you're doing is you're working on the business. You're developing the processes, you're developing the strategy, you're developing the systems, you're tuning those systems. Hopefully you get to a point where you're spending half your time working on the business and the other half in the business. And the third thing is you're working on yourself. You're reading books, you're listening to audiobooks, you're listening to podcasts, you're watching YouTube University. You're working on yourself. You're getting the skills you need to do the first two things. And so a lot of people, the E-Myth is about working in the business and on the business, but few people talk about the third part, which is you need to lay out a day every week to where you can just immerse yourself in something that you're trying. Yeah.
Can we lay out a day once a week just so I can sleep?
Something you're trying to learn, because you have to work on yourself to play this game. We're not born with the skills we need to take our business where we want to take it. So make time, even if it's just an hour a week. Try to start with an hour a week, then get to 2, then maybe get to where you can spend a half a day a week reading, listening to podcasts, watching stuff on YouTube. Maybe after the kid goes to bed, you spend, instead of an hour on Netflix, an hour on YouTube. Got to work on yourself.
I don't know what kind of crack you're smoking. After she goes to bed, I'm like, let me shower really quick so I can go to bed.
Hey,
So, but yes, okay. For people who don't like, I'm also training for like a lifting competition. So
Please,
like
it's a
sleep,
bikini competition. Just
it's a
call it
bikini
what it is.
competition. Yes. So I'm like prioritizing sleep because it helps with muscles and weight loss.
Absolutely. You've got to get your sleep in now. You have to.
But there sometimes I do go to sleep too early and then I
Okay,
wake
but
up
you're
at
in the
like
gym. You're in the gym, right?
yeah.
What are you listening to while you're in the gym? Be honest.
Okay. Yeah, I would tell you it's a cross.
I know. I don't
listening
even
to
need to
Katy Perry
guess.
or
I know
something.
exactly what she's listening to.
You're listening to Beyonce. Turn off Beyonce. Put on a
I'm
podcast.
not.
She's not
I
listening
am-
to Beyonce. She's listening to
listening
true
to a
crime, death,
podcast.
and murder.
Okay, all right, but one about CPG. You know what I'm saying. Like,
Yes,
find
I
the
do.
time.
And I don't really, I'm
find
not
the-
a huge Beyonce fan. You're more likely to have me listening to like, I don't know,
DMX,
what?
Skrillex.
No, like Pearl Jam or
Okay.
like Foghat, like some good shit from back in the day. Guns
Love
N'
it.
Roses.
Love it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but you have to substitute that with stuff that you're going to be learning passively, and you have to find like your car needs to be a mobile classroom. Your car should run on two things: gasoline and knowledge. Like every minute in the car needs to be, you need to be listening to some kind of audiobook or something on YouTube.
I do
If
that.
you do that for 5 or 10 years, you become a different person.
Where were we?
We were asking Bryan just his last closing and final words. This is going to be a fun edit. I just want to let everybody know this is going to be a very interesting edit for Nicola to make.
Mm-hmm. It will be. I'm here for it though.
My final words. If you're thinking about starting a business or you are starting a business, get in the game, stay in the game, because only when you're in the game can you win. So many people think about starting a business and life happens and next thing you know, 5 or 10 years goes by. Get in the game, even if it's just nights and weekends, because your business can take you places in life that you wouldn't be able to do otherwise. So get in the game and stay in the game.
Yeah, I agree with that. Even if it gets tough, like things will change, like things will eventually change. So I totally agree with that. And I guess now I'm going to have to listen to Tony Robbins. Anyway, Bryan, thank you so much for your time. Tell people where they can find you, all the socials, if you have your own website, whatever, let's hear about it.
Yeah. So, anybody who wants to reach me, you can hit me up on Instagram, Bryan M. Clayton. Just drop me a DM there. Anybody who doesn't want to waste time doing stuff like yard maintenance, just go to greenpal.com, get hooked up with a good lawn care service there. And if you have any questions about startups or tech startups or business, just hit me up.
Thank you. We really appreciate your time today. It's been a really fun chat, and I think
I
really appreciate, and I think that's probably what stood out to us most about you and your pitch and the conversation that we had was we love that you are just so candid about the challenges that come with being a business owner.
Well, anyway, everyone should have an amazing day. I am gonna go listen or find a Tony Robbins book somewhere because you're right. You never know.
Because Bryan said so.
Well, you never know.
Just find out for yourself.
Yeah, right?
Oh my God. And next minute we're all going to the conference.
Prior to investigation. Yeah. Which is basically what I have right now is contempt prior to investigation.
Oh my God. Next minute, all three of us, we're sharing a bunk bed room and we're at the
Tony Robbins conference.
Yay, guys. So excited.
Super exciting. All right. Well, I don't know if you follow us on Instagram, but follow us on Instagram. Tell everyone that you're on this podcast. And yeah, I'm sure you'll get an uptick in something.
Well, sounds good. Yeah. Let me know when it goes live. I'll help promote it.
Oh, for sure.
Well, that's Nicola's department.
That's
I don't
my
know
job.
anything about anything. I'm too busy trying to sleep.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's my job. I don't sleep because I do this.
All right.
I gotta run. You guys have a good day.
You too.
You too. Have a great one.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Let's Break Up, Toxic Workplace Stories. If you enjoyed our candid conversations and insights, don't forget to hit that like button, follow us on social media, and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform.